Why are these girls and their mama so messy in every single thing they do? Is NewJeans back or aren't they? Are they going to come back as a team of 5 or aren't they? Well, we definitely have full confirmation from both NewJeans side and also HYBE side that the youngest two, Haerin and Hyein, are going back for sure under good pretenses as far as we know. They were able to talk to ADOR well in advance and prepare a proper return to resume their careers at ADOR and not outside as NewJeans. The other three, the Three Musketeers, what's looking like now the core Mean Girl group, not as clear. ADOR themselves had to say that they are going to check the sincerity of the three, Minji, Hanni, and Danielle, and none of them are going to appeal. So at least we know that for sure. They're going to abide by the court's ruling that their exclusive contract is valid. However, 3 of them just unilaterally announced that they're coming back to ADOR without any proper conversation. And one of them was even on an iceberg and used that as an excuse as to why she missed the meeting with ADOR. Guess Hanni was looking for a hallway in the Arctic and trying to find some penguins to make sure that they don't ignore her. So maybe Hanni ran out of bunny uncles, maybe she ran out of hallways because she took a little trip to Antarctica. Maybe it has something to do with her visa as well. She got to go on a visa run, so she might as well go to the furthest ends of the earth to get away from some of the heat over in Korea. And so the interesting part of this situation is that even though after the whole dramatic court ruling where NewJeans lost and they said that they're going to appeal and go through the appeals process, well, looks like a lot of them had to walk back on that, and in particular Haerin and Hyein more so. So behind the scenes, it looks like there was a bit of a division between the 5. So the deadline to appeal the lawsuit was last week, November 13th, but all of these announcements came out on November 12th. ADOR mentioned publicly that they are going to welcome Haerin and Hyein back to ADOR, to HYBE, to resume their careers because the two respected the court's decision and had been in talks with ADOR, probably the dad, one of the dads, because they were just like, don't ask which dad it is. So it was either Hyein's dad or Haerin's dad who got divorced from the family. Usually you get divorced from your spouse, but for some, I don't know what kind of, I guess they paid that lawyer a lot of money. They found like a family divorce where essentially, we'll wait on, whether you're divorced or not between the spouses, but definitely you're no longer officially, legally the father of one of the NewJeans girls so that he would not be able to block any actions from when they were all cartelling themselves together and trying to hatch a plot against HYBE. That one daddy wanted to say, no way, but good thing. He seems to probably have a lot of credibility going into this to negotiate a return for the two. So the public statement from ADOR on November 12th said, NewJeans members Haerin and Hyein have expressed their intent to continue their activities with ADOR. After careful consideration and thorough discussions with their families, the 2 members have decided to respect the court's ruling and uphold their exclusive contracts. ADOR will do our utmost so that Haerin and Hyein can continue their entertainment activities smoothly. We ask for the fans' warm support and urge everyone to refrain from making unfounded speculations about the members. Thank you. Well, there must have been a hootenanny with the other three because in a matter of hours, Minji, Danielle, and Hanni released a very sloppy statement through their new lawyers saying that, oh yeah, us too, we're gonna come back to ADOR and respect the court's decision as well. Except their announcement was full of a lot of shade being thrown over at ADOR, the audacity for them to be doing this. So this is what their statement said. Hello, this is Minji, Hanni, and Danielle. Recently, we decided on our return to ADOR after careful discussion. This was relayed late as one member is currently in Antarctica, but as ADOR is not responding at the moment, we are inevitably announcing this through a separate statement. We will continue greeting you with sincere music and performances. Thank you. In response to the report, ADOR briefly commented, we're checking on the sincerity of Minji, Hanni, and Danielle's intent to return. So it wasn't like, oh yeah, open arms, I'm glad to hear from you ladies. No, this was a little bit odd. So after peeling back the onion, what we found out was that the three did not have their meetings the way that Haerin and Hyein did with ADOR, and because Hanni was looking at penguins like whether they're bound or not over in Antarctica, she definitely did not have her meeting with ADOR. But how tricky is their message saying that we had a careful discussion, as if it's intimating that they had a careful discussion with ADOR, which they did not. And then also ADOR is not responding at the moment. They were the ones that weren't responding. They probably said right away after the announcement from ADOR, oh yeah, us too. And then in a matter of, the minutes, there was no reply. And so they were saying like, oh, they're not replying. So we're going to, have to jump the gun and say us too. So if you guys are wondering, well, didn't ADOR fight tooth and nail to say, girls, come back. We have all the albums ready for you, the tour and everything. Y'all know that was Kim and Chang lawyering going on. And so legal experts are saying that if ADOR wants to now say, see you later, girls, then they would be able to cancel the contract, and it would be the NewJeans members themselves who would have to be in breach of contract and pay the penalties. So you see how this worked out. What they were doing with the first exclusive contract upholding lawsuit was to make sure they're in the clear, that NewJeans cannot say that, oh, we need to cancel the contract on valid grounds. So the court has denied that, and NewJeans has accepted that. They're not appealing that. So now the ball is totally in ADOR and HYBE's court, where they can cancel the contract with whoever they want from NewJeans, because there's a whole laundry list of how these girls have breached the contract legitimately and how they would be at fault and liable for any penalties. However, it was written in their contract. Now, this is karma rolling itself around, because now we have a stark difference in Jeansland, and we have a stark division between some of the members. So netizens, people in the media have gone so far as to even label them as 2Jeans and 3Jeans. So 3 is Danielle, Hanni, and Minji, and the other 2, Haerin and Hyein. Haerin and Hyein seemed like they had a come to Jesus moment with the members of the executive team over at HYBE. Glad maybe they tried out Jesus instead of sticking to Min Hee-jin Shaman. But over with the other 3, they didn't have the formal discussions. So as the events have been unfolding, ADOR says we're going to talk to the 3 individually and work things out, and Hanni would be the last one because, maybe it's a slow boat from Antarctica that she got to get on to get back to Seoul. ADOR said on November 13th, we are working on scheduling individual meetings with the NewJeans members. We will do our utmost to ensure the discussions proceed smoothly. So they're definitely open to talk if these ladies will ever talk to them, even though they said that they crossed that river, that ship has sailed, there is no way we're going back to ADOR. And suddenly they're like, oh yeah, us too, we're coming back. And of course, NewJeans' mama had to add her 2 cents publicly, like she's looking for change for a counterfeit $3 bill, and said, hello, this is Min Hee-jin. With many inquiries coming in, I would like to share my position. I believe the decision the members made yesterday to return together was reached after deep deliberation and discussion. I respect and support that choice. Remember, this is a lady who speaks in opposites for manipulation, so deep deliberation, discussion, probably not. There was probably a lack of coordination and discussion over in Jeansland. Despite the difficulties, I deeply value the courage of the members who joined hands again to protect one another. Oh, honey, I bet they would. No, it was more like claws scratching at each other, fighting. I can start anew anywhere. Why is this all about her again? She's like, oh, I can start anew. I don't need them. However, I believe under any circumstances, NewJeans must be kept intact as 5 members. I hope the members grow stronger and that NewJeans becomes an even better group. And above all, that all 5 members are happy. More than anything, thank you to fans who stood by NewJeans even in difficult times. Please give a warm welcome to the members as they overcome these challenges and make their return. I, too, will watch over NewJeans' music and growth and support them to the very end. During this period, as multiple lawsuits proceeded simultaneously, a difficult time has been prolonged for all of us. The litigation between HYBE and me is entirely separate and has nothing to do with NewJeans. As an individual, I am doing my very best and hope the truth will be brought to light. I ask for your continued support. So she is trying to push this narrative that the group has to stay together as a group of 5. And she even pushed this later through a lawyer's podcast where this lawyer read her next statement that we'll get to, but looks a little bit suspicious to me. And I think HYBE is doing a good strategy by flowing with what was happening. Where there was a division, we'll take the 2 back. That actually works better because then it gets rebranded. The 2 can have a different style career, and NewJeans as an entity would cease to exist, at least for the time being, and that would prevent any sort of resurgences in plotations to try to take NewJeans out again. And then also a lot of you are saying, and I agree with you, you bring those 3 in, the 3 aggressive ones, the 3 manipulative ones, and you have moles, and you have the killer in the building. So a few days later on the 15th, on a YouTube podcast by No Young Hee, she's a lawyer. She decided, she's probably friends with, somehow connected. She read another statement by NewJeans' mama. She said, from the very beginning, I created the painting with the number 5 in mind. The structure, the appearance, the sound, the color, the style, the movement was all designed with 5 in mind. That's why people were so enthusiastic, and that's how the form was completed. Again, picture, she's visual. She said that she always thought it would be 5. Girl, we already have your Kakao Talk messages. You kicked out 1 and 2 members after consulting with your shaman, saying oh, is she pretty enough, or her, I don't like her expression, or she looks haunted. I don't know, pot calling the kettle black. She was saying that she was freaked out by one of the girls. So she had more than 5, and she definitely took over more than 5 during that messy recruitment process with Source Music when she was putting together NewJeans. And what kind of appearance, sound, color, style, movement designed with 5 in mind? I don't think so. It was designed with Mexico in mind, okay? With the jeans in Mexico. NewJeans is only complete when there are 5 of them. Well, she was the sixth member, so I don't know what she's talking about. Five, again. Each color and sound interlocks to form a complete form. Now that we've returned, these five must be treasured. Unnecessary disputes and interpretations are not helpful. The essence is aimed at me, but please don't involve children in the process. Children must be protected, not exploited. NewJeans exists when there are five of them. NewJeans girls, I think except for one, they're now officially adults. If they're still children, I'm a preteen. This makes absolutely no sense, and it does seem to reflect a guilty conscience or trying to, again, distract people from noticing that she used children in her fight with the big dogs over at HYBE over her put options and money. Remember, it was very odd how she was stressing things that weren't really top of mind for people during the April press conference when she first laid out this whole verbiage. And she said, I'm not doing this for money. This is not about the money. Obviously, it was about the money. She kept saying, like, don't involve the artists in the fight for adults. She definitely used them. She used the artists and she used the artists' parents. And of course, they have to also take responsibility for going along. But she definitely drove that bus. Min Hee-jin went on to say, the appeal deadline was over, and it was natural for them to go back. Natural for them to go back? And I even congratulated them on that, but I was a little curious as to why ADOR created a 3-2 separation structure, so that some members would receive and some would not. What is she talking about? Again, she is flipping the aggressor and the victim. She is saying that ADOR created a 3-2 structure. No, the NewJeans girls had a division. 2 went back and started to negotiate their return in earnest. The other 3 were off doing something else. Lawyers who are looking at this from the perspective of the K-pop industry, the essential foundation of artist development, which is this exclusive artist contract, are thinking that there's a high likelihood that ADOR would not continue working with these 3, which is also risky because if you let them go, what are they gonna, that actually might be their wish. And there's a whole new leadership at ADOR, so there is a new regime, which made me think that actually with these 3, the 3 musketeers, ADOR may want to accept the 3 back so that they can keep a close eye on them, but also negotiate and compromise and give them what they want and maybe spin them off. They can be, yes, under a new regime, perhaps maybe a new regime a little bit more north of Seoul and someplace where their unilateral style of speaking and decision making would fit right in. And they could be called the regime fit jeans or the new regime fit jeans. Yes, it's time for them to put on the big girl pants, do a solid for Korea, and go to North Korea. As we've seen from BTS, the government is always trying to involve BTS in terms of international diplomacy. Remember, they're trying to get a bid for the World Expo by showcasing BTS like their show ponies. They wanted BTS to save a failed World Jamboree. Why does it have to fall on BTS's shoulders all the time? And there really is not a very strong new North Korea policy with the new president, Lee Jae-myung. So I would suggest, Lee Jae-myung, why don't you do a K-pop diplomacy and send, as a goodwill gesture, new regime fit jeans? and they can join North Korea's Moranbong band, and maybe they could be the new morons. Something tells me that there's a lot of opportunity up there for them. And I'll be the first one to start a GoFundMe so they can fly a comrade class on Air Koryo to Pyongyang. And look, I've even already scouted a new building for them. Girls, forget about the 16th floor. How about the Ryugyong Hotel in Pyongyang with 105 floors? Pick a floor because there's nobody there except on the 5th floor, apparently. That's where they put all of their security surveillance to spy on everybody. So you can't pick floor 5, but there's 104 other floors in the building. You probably can pick your own elevator. And how cool would it be if you're riding the elevator with dictator Kim Jong-un and then later complained that he didn't greet you, bow to you, or say hello to you properly? I would love to hear the feedback on how that ends up over in North Korea if you try to do that. So this is still early days and messy days with these girls. And we don't know for sure whether they're going to go back together as HYBE, but I would say the likelihood is a bit low at this point. Now, what we did also find out were more details about Min Hee-jin's plotation when she decided to take down Eyelit and Le Seraphim. She claimed that it was just netizens, which is essentially probably bots that she paid for, and inputted the message, "Oh my gosh, I think Eyelit is copying NewJeans." She apparently did not specifically target Eyelit from the beginning, but she made sure that she had a whole box of different idol groups to choose from to launch an attack that somebody was copying her. There's testimony that comes from the court documents from the case with Belief Lab and also between Belief Lab and Min Hee-jin, saying that the ADOR employees created a monitoring document stating that various idol groups could be accused of copying NewJeans, especially with cleverly manipulated edits of videos. And it wasn't just girl groups, it was also boy groups. It wasn't just HYBE artists. She had the employees just go far and wide throughout Korea and create monitoring documents about other artists from other agencies so that eventually she could pick among the different opportunities to attack another K-pop group. And apparently she settled upon Eyelit because the fan base for Eyelit was not as strong and active and big as the other groups. So yes, as a K-pop fan, as long as you're not crazy, the line between crazy and committed sometimes can be very thin and blurry, but a strong fan base really does help protect a K-pop group from situations like these. Eyelit, of course, just because their fan group base was just getting started, did not deserve this. And there's probably nothing that they could have done about it, but your voice really does make a difference when you're protecting your artists. So you could really feel the frustration of Belief Lab in the court documents where they said that Min Hee-jin packaged herself as the righteous whistleblower, positioned herself on the side of the good guys, and incited the public by saying there was no need to listen to the other side's story and made herself a victim. But after former CEO Min Hee-jin raised the plagiarism allegations, Eyelit's album orders plummeted, causing further production to be halted, filming schedules and appearances to be canceled, advertising contracts to be halted, and the members had to suffer from malicious comments, resulting in tangible and intangible losses. So the fallout, the effect on another business, another set of artists, their careers, and not to mention their mental health, was very real and orchestrated by one NewJeans mama. Min Hee-jin, on the other hand, responded by saying, I can't believe you're using this Kakao Talk evidence in this PowerPoint presentation because that is an invasion of privacy to just use my Kakao Talk messages like that. And yes, now people are very quick to point out the irony, okay? You started off this whole war with blasting Kakao Talk messages, private Kakao Talk messages to the public yourself. You started this whole situation. She also said that Belift Labs selectively extracted Kakao Talk messages and distorted their meaning. It was nothing more than private conversation. Yeah, usually when you talk to somebody on chat, it's a private conversation. How does that actually relate to whether the meaning was distorted? Absolutely not. She's been on a campaign to distort her own messages because they're so bad. And remember when she first came out, and it was odd. Again, it was odd because she was doing this in advance. She was preparing the soil so that her lies and weeds could grow and not the truth. And she was saying like, oh yeah, you know how if you notice some of these Kakao Talk messages, we just have a weird sense of humor. You know, we like to hatch plotations to relieve stress and, you know, say that we're talking to investors to relieve stress. It's just our imagination because we were so stressed out at work and we talk to each other this way and about other people that way because it's a joke. And then people are just like, what? Oh, okay, so I guess she's got a potty mouth. Oh, how fun. Like, they totally bought it. And now it just looks absolutely ridiculous that she is the biggest liar, that the public has had to admit that they were fooled by, but they'll never admit it. But they should. I mean, on this level, I don't know if there's been a bigger scam in recent history. So remember, y'all, just because you wouldn't do something like this and you can't imagine that somebody would ever do such a thing, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. These type of people exist in this world, and doesn't matter whether you would do that or you don't know anybody yourself that would ever do that. If they're there, if they're here, and if they are damaging people's lives the way that we've seen very clearly what happened to Islet, and Islet is not, on the grand scheme of things, a helpless K-pop group with a helpless company. So even that strong of a company and a group got taken to all sorts of ridiculousness because of somebody like this. So it's not done, especially because the major money situation with the lawsuit between Min Hee-jin and HYBE hasn't been resolved. So you better believe Miss NewJeans' mama is going to try to spin any kind of development with NewJeans into her favor somehow. But it really does seem the decision tree is getting a lot more narrow and limited and not very effective for one Miss NewJeans' mama. All right, guys, what do you think? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.